Hi guys, welcome to a Protopilot. My name's Darren and today I'm going to be showing you how to create a Lottie animation inside of the app LottieLab. And specifically we're going to create a little fireworks animation. So this is one of those little animations you might use in your app or website when you want to create that moment of delight. So something unexpected for the user. And LottieLab's really easy to use, much easier to use than After Effects when it comes to creating Lottie animations. So that's what we're going to be creating. So before we start and dive into the tutorial, I'm going to give you a little look of the sort of thing we're going to end up with. It probably won't be exactly the same because we're going to create this from scratch, but this is essentially what it's going to look like. Okay, so looks pretty cool. Looks like a nice little moment of delight for your users. So without further ado, let's jump into LottieLab and see how we can create this. Okay, so here I am inside of LottieLab and I've got a file created already. I've got my artboard here. I've just kind of made it 300 by 300 and we're actually going to reduce the size, the duration of the animation. So it's going to do it over 1 second. So if you're new to LottieLab, just give you a quick tour. We'll kind of cover everything anyway, but you kind of got your timeline down here. You've got this switch in the center, which toggles you between animate mode, which is here, and kind of design mode, kind of drawing mode, which is where you're going to create your graphics. Of course, you could export your graphics from Figma or from Illustrator or anything that supports SVG, in fact, into LottieLab. We're just going to be using LottieLab's inbuilt tools and we're going to create from scratch because it's pretty simple in terms of graphics that we're going to create. We're going to create some stars, some triangles and some lines. Okay, so as you saw in the kind of demo. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the background just for the sake of us. We're going to turn that to a black background. We'll probably export it as a transparent background so we can control it in whatever destination app that it's going to be in, but it will just make it easier to see the bright colors. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw our graphics. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to grab the pen tool here and I'm going to draw those arcs, so those kind of streaking fireworks that are kind of like rockets. They're going to be rocketing off. You can't see the rockets. Of course, you could add rockets if you wanted to, but kind of those streaking rocket lines. And I'm going to create 4 of those. So we're just going to create some arcs. So it's just a normal pen tool, pretty similar to how you would use them in other tools. So I'm just clicking a point and I'm going to click and drag to kind of create an arc. And I can toggle to pointer mode, which is V on the keyboard, which then gives me the ability to control the shape. And I've got these 2 points, as you would expect in any kind of vector drawing tool. Okay, so just kind of roughly put this out here. You can see the stroke by default is black. Let's kind of make it, I don't know, kind of yellow color. Don't judge me on the color theory here. We're just going to put something down for now. And I'm going to make that a bit thicker. You can see you can kind of hover over these kind of like controls here, these values, and you can see I've got this little tool where I can just kind of do that. So that's quite nice, quite common in some other tools, but quite useful. Let's kind of make that 4 pixels wide. And you can see it's got these kind of flat lines. I want to make those circular, so I'm just going to change the line cap to round. Okay, so that's looking pretty good for a start. Let's kind of draw some more. So I'm going to draw one over here. Again, pressing V key. Maybe make that kind of like this. We'll turn that into maybe a purpley pinky color. And again, I'm going to up the width of that. Change the end cap style. And maybe we'll have one kind of like more kind of coming out the center here. You can, of course, kind of do more points. Let's kind of do that. So we've got a more thrust, a larger arc. You can obviously play around with this. Let's kind of make that. Maybe green. brighter. And we're going to curve that. Actually, I'm just going to make that come from the center there. Okay, and then let's do one, I don't know, kind of like over here. Maybe I'll just leave it as a single, something like this. What color haven't we used? Red. Let's do a red color, and we'll make that thick as well. Okay, so we've got our basic arcs. We can kind of move those around. We can edit them. You can see I've got these 4 shape layers here, so I'm just going to rename them. Just kind of put them in order. Just makes it easier later down the line. So I'm going to call this arc 1 through to arc 4. Okay, I'll kind of group those as well. Let's call them arcs. Okay, so that's our kind of arcs done. We're going to then add a few triangles, polygons even, so really easy to do. Little triangle. We're going to give this a rounded corner, just a little bit of radius. And maybe we keep to these same 4 colors, but maybe we'll just move them around a bit. We can obviously, let's make that one green. If we hold down the Option key, you'll see we can drag and duplicate, drag and clone, which is quite useful and quite standard and quite nice. Nice to have apps that are based on other tools, so it makes it a lot easier for them to learn. Okay, so we've got our triangles, kind of group them in the center maybe. I mean, here you're kind of thinking about like where your starting point's going to be, where these things are kind of going to begin from. Maybe this one can go a bit further out. Okay, so we've got our triangles, so I'm going to call these, unsurprisingly, triangles. Triangle 1, actually it's triangle 4, isn't it? I'm kind of naming them from left to right, sort of. Let's make that triangle 1. And we'll make this one triangle 3. This one triangle 2. Okay, and we're going to group those together. That's our triangles, which I can't spell. And then finally, we're going to add a few stars. Everyone likes stars. Stars are good for fireworks. And with the star, we can kind of change the ratio. So we can make them fatter. Maybe something like that. And again, I'm going to keep to the same 4 colors. I might actually just change the starting size. We'll have some small stars and some big stars. Imagine it's just like a firework package. It's all ready to explode out. Maybe something like that. And we'll change these colors. Let's just kind of, oh, that was already yellow. Okay, let's make this one green. Of course, you can play around with the design of your fireworks. I've spent an inordinate amount of time when I was putting this video together, practicing by playing around with different firework shapes. But, you know, when you're doing animation, it's good to go and get some references. Look at some real fireworks, see like how fireworks kind of explode and the directions they go and all the sorts of different fireworks you could kind of create. And with these Lottie animations, it's important to not overdo it. I kind of had a version of this where there was a lot of shapes and this is all kind of a manual keyframing process, as you'll see. And it didn't really add anything to it. So I kind of got to the sweet spot where I just kind of had 4 or 5 of everything. Okay, so Let's rename our stars. Star 1. This just helps to keep track when you're animating. Talk amongst yourselves why I'm doing this. Unless you're on your own, then I guess you can talk to yourself. That's what I'm doing right now, weirdly. Okay, let's group that together and call these stars. And I'll just put those in some sort of similar order. No, I've done it the other way around. Let me do that. There we go. Okay, we've got our graphics. We've got our firework display ready to rock. So now we can go into animation mode. And the way you do that in LottieLab is you switch this. You can press the A key. As you can see, it prompts you there. And as soon as you go into animate mode, you can see the timeline pops up and you've got this nice little animation from LottieLab telling you that you can now animate. Okay, so animation works pretty much, don't know what Balloon was doing there. The animation works pretty much the way you would animate in apps like After Effects. It's pretty standard traditional keyframing. Okay, so let's kind of do this. So the first thing I want to do is I want to kind of hide everything. Okay, so certainly for the stars, I'm going to just turn their opacities down. So I'm going to select all those, turn those opacities down to 0. We're going to do the same for the triangles. Now for the arcs, we're going to do it slightly differently, because the way we're going to animate the arcs is we're going to animate them so they're kind of drawing themselves along the path. Okay, so they're kind of like rocketing up and they're going to kind of streak across, creating this kind of arc shape. So to do that, we need to use a slightly different mechanism. We're going to use this feature called Reveal Path. And you can see at the moment, there's actually 3 options you've got here: sweep start, sweep end, and sweep offset. So we can see we've got sweep end at 100%. So that's kind of showing, like from the end point to the beginning point, it's 100%. So it's 100% showing. If I just move this up and down, you'll see what's happening. So as I change the sweep end, it's kind of animating outwards. Okay. So we want to kind of start with our sweep end at 0. So we're just going to do that for all of them. You can imagine what you can do with this reveal path feature. It's pretty cool. Okay. Now, what you'll notice is that I made a mistake. I didn't have my playhead set at 0. So you can see it's already created a bunch of keyframes for me. And actually, if I go in reverse, you can see I've almost created the animation. I'm just going to delete all these. Actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to delete these keyframes. Because what I should have done is start here. Okay. Let's just move that down. Okay, no keyframes. That's a bit better. Okay, so we've kind of got our starting 0 point state. So we've got nothing showing. So we're going to keep our playhead at 0. So as you saw just a minute ago, the way you kind of create these animations, you're essentially changing a property between two keyframes. And you, depending on where you put your playhead, so this is your playhead here, will be where that property change is going to happen. Okay, so let's start with the arcs. So I'm going to select arc 1. So I'm going to select it here. You'll see it appears in my timeline, and you can see when I hover over the track, I get this little plus icon. So that plus icon enables me to add a keyframe. Okay, so I'm going to add a keyframe, a starting keyframe. And when I click it, you'll see that this little panel, this little fly out menu pops up. And this shows me all of the properties that I can animate. Okay, so here I'm animating the reveal path. So let's choose that. And you can see as soon as I add that, I get potential keyframes for the start, the end, and the offset. Okay, so we're going to start at 0, as we've already set that to 0, and then I'm going to move my playhead. Let's move it up to, I don't know, 0.4 of a second. We can adjust all these afterwards, so it's fine. Okay, so we've moved it to 0.4 of a second. I'm now going to change my sweep end. I'm going to move it to 100%. And we can see we've created an animation. So you can see there's a line between these two diamonds. The two diamonds are the keyframes, and the line is what we call the interpolation. So it's interpolating, i.e. transitioning from the property at this keyframe to the property at this keyframe. Okay, and actually when you hover over this, you'll see it says linear here. So if I just select that for a minute, you can see that we can apply a number of different easing curves. Okay, so this is kind of how that animation will change over time. Okay, so we're just going to leave that at, actually I'm probably going to change that to slow down, because I want it to kind of start very fast and then slow down when it gets to the end. Okay, because it's a firework and it's going to have like lots of gunpowder in it, and it's going to like have a very explosive start. It's going to accelerate very quickly. It's not like driving a car where it's going to start off very slowly. Okay, so we've got our first part. Now, when this arc kind of animates, I also want it, I don't want it to kind of stay on screen when it's finished. I want it to actually, it's like the exhaust from the rocket. So it's going to dissipate as it kind of travels through the sky. So I want the bottom part of the arc to disappear as well. I want that to be slightly behind. So to do that, we're going to animate the start position. So the start position is the start point. So basically this vector point at the beginning of our arc. And again, it's kind of already at this 0 point. So we're just going to get to here, and we're going to change that endpoint, that sweep start. And you can see as we create it, as we kind of move it up to 100%, it makes the whole thing disappear. Okay, so now we've got nothing, because both points are animating at exactly the same time. So we don't want that, because that doesn't make any sense. But if we pull this over, and it really depends on, I guess, where you want it to start. So how long you want that kind of thing to be. So you can see here now, as we do it, it's kind of doing this thing. Okay, so if you want it longer, you can start it earlier. Actually shorter, that's going to make it shorter. So you can see here, we've got this. And if you want it longer, you go the other way. So entirely up to you. I'm going to put it in the middle. Okay, so let's kind of just run that. We can hit the play button here to kind of run that. Okay, you can see, there you go, there's your first firework. Okay, that's looking good. Okay, so we'll leave that, and what we need to do now is we need to apply the same process to the other 3 arcs. Okay, so good practice here. So let's choose this second arc and make sure our playhead is at 0, and we're going to add a keyframe like we did before. For its reveal path, I'll speed up this one a little bit. So we're going to come to the end here. Actually, let's kind of go back to the beginning for a sec. We're going to set that from 0 to, actually, let's go to 100. We want the sweep end to be 100 and this to be 0, don't we? No, we don't. We want that to be 100. Silly fool. Let's get that. Choose the right one might help. Okay, let's add reveal path to arc 2. Okay, let's go up to 100. And then let's go back to the beginning. Go about 50% actually. So that 20 point. And we want the end we want the start point to start there, and we want it to end at 100%. So we've got a similar thing going on. Now that's probably a bit long, so we might want to change that to be shorter. So we know shorter means go this way. Let's go and do it there. Might even do it less. Maybe like that. You can play with this all day, really. That'll do. Okay, so now we got, okay, I messed up that other one because I had the wrong one selected. Let's just go back to that and fix that. There we go. Okay. That looks way too fast. And of course we can change the durations of these. So the way we can do that for all of the keyframes properties. We've only got one set here, but if we select like the top level container, you can see this little arrow here. So we could just kind of eke that out. We can move that back down, and you can kind of got this kind of offset now. See it in slow motion. There you go. Okay. Okay, let's go to the third arc. That's different to Raiders of the Lost Ark, obviously. That was the Ark of the Covenant. So this is the third arc, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add a reveal path. I'm going to go to some sort of end. I'm going to make the sweep end 100%. So we get that. And then halfway through, we're going to add another keyframe for the start point. And then we're going to make that 100%. I think I'm getting the hang of this now. There you go. Okay. Final arc. We really know what we're doing now. We've done this so much. Okay, endpoint 100, go to 20, start, add keyframe, go to end 100. Why is that 98? We want that to be 100. There we go. There you go. Right, so we've got our arcs. Okay, and like I said, you can play around with the timings of these, the start and end points of these. Maybe for these ones, they can be slightly something like that. Just add a bit more natural animation. Not everything begins and ends at the same point. You could even offset some of these so they don't all fire at the same time. There you go. I mean, not all fireworks probably start at the same time. Okay, so that's looking good. Okay, next up, we're going to animate the triangles. So should be significantly easier. So triangle 1, you can see again, as soon as I select it over here, it kind of appears here. I'm going to add make sure my playhead is at the 0 point, add a plus, and this time I'm going to change the position. Okay, so I've got my starting position. I'm going to go somewhere over here. I'm going to make these probably not be on screen as much, maybe. Let's go to the 3rd point, and I'm just going to drag, and you can see this arrow comes out, and this is basically the path. Okay, so I'm going to drag that to maybe somewhere. It's going to come in between these two, so maybe somewhere like this. And it's going to be the ending point. So I want it to kind of like end quite low because it's going to fall. It's going to, obviously, through gravity, it's going to fall. But I want it to be an arc. Okay, so what I can do is I can click the path, and you can see I've got this little dot now, which means I can add a point. And if I click and hold and drag, I can turn that into an arc. So an arc, basically a motion path. So we'll do something like that. Maybe we just won't have it kind of like going up too high, have it quite low. So we've got this path that it's following, okay? We're going to come back to 0 because we can't see it because obviously it's got an opacity of 0. So we want to change that next. So I'm going to choose opacity and I'm going to have it appearing about there. Let's turn the opacity up. So it's kind of appearing and then it's kind of going to disappear again. Okay, so appearing, disappearing, and it's following that arc. Okay. Now that's pretty boring. This triangle, it's not moving its orientation. We want it to kind of probably spin. So let's add a rotation property. So you can see how you're just starting to build these things up. We're going to start at 0 and we're going to get to the end and I'm going to change the rotation and you can go like beyond 360 if you want it to rotate more than once. Let's just do 360-ish or exactly, see what that looks like. So you can see now it's whooshing around. Got this weird point here, don't know why this does this. I'm just going to delete it to connect those 2 points together. There you go. So now we've got this kind of more natural thing. Now what you could also do, you could change the scale of this and maybe it's getting smaller as it, because you imagine it's like a particle of light or particle of stuff, like flamey stuff that's kind of dissipating as it gets to the end. So we could add a scale as well. And then maybe when we get to the end, we're going to, and I want to scale both the X and the Y, so let's constrain it by locking it together, and now I can pull this down. See, there you go, it's doing that weird point thing again. No idea why it's doing that, but we can just delete it to connect those two together. Okay, so now it starts off big, and as it spins around, it kind of turns into this smaller particle. Okay, so now we've got this kind of going on. Okay, we can slow it down when we kind of get to the end. We can play around with that. What we could do, so we've got this kind of parent artboard. We can actually not do that. If we grab the arrow, we can make that 1 second long. And now you can see that it's slowed the whole lot down. So it's basically expanded out all of the keyframes for all of the objects that are included or nested inside. Okay, it's just kind of like stretch them all out. So that's quite handy if you just want to play around with the overall speed of your fireworks. Probably a bit slow now. But you get the idea. Okay, that's one triangle done. It is a bit of a manual process. And we've got these 4 things. We got these 4 properties that we're doing. So we need to do that for the other triangles. So feel free to fast forward through this, but I'm going to go through the motions. So we're going to set our position. I'm going to move it over to here. This one I'm going to like maybe, remember you're kind of doing your end position. Maybe this kind of one, it's kind of not going to go as far. Maybe it's like there. And then again, we're going to that arc. Okay. And we're going to come back to beginning. We're going to add our opacity. We're going to add some rotation. Really don't know why it keeps doing that. Maybe LottieLab folks will be able to answer that question for me. And finally, some scale. lock. And we'll go over to the end here and we'll scale it down. Okay. So we've got our next one. That's that done. Triangle 3. Position. Maybe not as far. Let's kind of do this, say, maybe here. Something like that. We could actually kind of do all of them, I guess. Rotation and scale, and go to the end. Actually, for the opacity, we want to kind of do it there, don't we? We can do this kind of thing. And we can also lock, and we can do this. And we can also do this. And we've kind of done them all, and then we kind of delete these silly points to connect them all together. That's really too fast. But rotation needs to move up there. Okay, let's move that one faster. Okay. Final triangle. Maybe I should have done this with less triangles. Would have been a quicker video. Position. Let's move it over here. Let's make our arc less pronounced. Let's go back and add our opacity. And let's add, I wonder if, no, let's just leave that. Let's add rotation. What if I just do it like this from here? And then I can move it out. Another way of doing it, scale. Lock. Bring that down. Move that out. Okay. Right, so we've got our triangles kind of happening. And as you can imagine, stars are pretty much the same as triangles. We're going to do that again in exactly the same way. Maybe the stars are more, maybe they don't go as far. Maybe something like this. Okay. Rotation. And opacity. Again, we want them to kind of appear very quickly. Oh no, not that. That's not opacity. That's opacity. And then go to the end. Bring it back down. Position, rotation, opacity. Yeah, we could do scale. Why not? Make sure we lock. The thing about animation is it's time consuming. Okay. But we are crafting something from scratch. I was watching a video recently where an animator was talking about the fact that a day of his life takes, in one day of animating, he creates 1 second of footage, and it takes him a whole day to do that, which is insane. Okay, position. It's kind of over here. Opacity. I think also when you kind of see how it's created, really gives you a lot of respect for the amount of effort that goes into these things. And just all the decision making as well, you know, all the different, is that too long, is that too short, changing the speeds, messing with things. This one's, maybe we don't want it to rotate so much. Just keep removing that extra keyframe that it keeps giving me. There we go. We want to do the scale on this. For some reason, when you do it down here, you don't get that extra keyframe, which is interesting. And then you just drag it out, and that saves you having to delete it. Is that a hack? I don't know. Kind of a hack. Okay, star 3. Position. Over there. Actually, no, we need to move the playhead first. Okay. Opacity. And we go to the end. Down. Rotation. And we're going to do the hack. Oh, it's done one, even though my hack is broken. Damn. Okay. And finally, the scale. And we'll go to the end. Make sure we lock. Reduce that. Okay. One more to go. We're nearly there. I can see the end. It's in sight. Add our position keyframe. Move our star. Somewhere like that. Make it more archy. Back. Let's do the opacity. And the scale. And rotation. This is the last thing we're doing. Remove that extra keyframe. Okay. Right. Let's run that. Fireworks. Okay. Now there's one extra thing I want to do. If you stuck with me all this way, you're going to really love this. So on the arcs, at the moment, they're all the same thickness, right? Even like when they're at the end, they're kind of thick, but they're probably going to dissipate and become thinner as well. Don't know if you noticed that in the original. So we actually want to animate the thickness, which you can animate the thickness of lines as well, which is really cool. So we're going to go back to our arcs of not of the Covenant. Sorry, I'm a Raiders of the Lost Ark fan, an Indiana Jones fan. That's what that reference is from, if you have no idea what I'm talking about. So Arc 1, we're going to add a stroke property. And this enables us to manipulate all the properties of strokes. We're just going to manipulate the width, the stroke width. We're going to get to the end here, and we're going to reduce that down to, let's do like 2. We don't want it to be completely gone. So now you can see when it animates, it actually gets thinner, which is quite nice. Let's do that to the others. Let's take this one down to 3 maybe. We've got the weird point thing going on as well. Well, we've got it here as well. Up 3. I said I wasn't going to do anything more repetitive for you, but here I am doing more repetitive things. Sorry about that. I mean, it still works. I think, so basically, when you've got 2 points with no line in between, it means they've got the same value. So you can see here it's got a value of 7. And if we come to here, you'll see also it's got a value of 7. So between these 2 points, it's not animating. So if we delete that point, it forces it to animate from 7 all the way down. That's kind of what's happening. Okay. Final arc. Stroke. And we'll take that down to 1, I think, because it was only 4. Okay. And now we've got this kind of thing. So there we go. And like I said, we can make it faster or slower. We can just control like the main artboard. We can do this. We can make it slower, which doesn't look as impactful, in my opinion. But you want to be able to see it. But you could also offset the individual elements as well. Look, because we've grouped them, we can actually control the stars, the triangles, and the arcs separately. So maybe you want the stars to like last longer. See, now you kind of like, because I kind of think like the arc should kind of be the fastest thing. And the triangles are kind of like just like the particles, like the debris that's coming out. And the stars are like, should be the last thing. So there we go. we could try and make the triangles less as well. What does that look like? So now they're actually coming out faster. No, I don't like that. I don't want them to come out faster than the arcs. Maybe somewhere in between. And maybe these can be even longer, up to 1 second. Let's try that. Let's move that. Right, so one thing, and I did mention it earlier, so you can see that all these are on linear interpolations. Now for speed, you can probably just change the position interpolation to something a bit faster. So for example, on the arcs, the reveal path, we're just going to change the interpolation there to slow down. That was already slow down, wasn't it? And then for arc 2, slow down. Because I want them to kind of that shouldn't have a point there. In fact, that shouldn't have a point there as well. It's done the same thing. Okay. I've just done that on the first 2. Let's just have a look at that. Because also you could change it on different things. Oh, now I've broken it. Ah. Let's undo that. Okay, of course. We want to put it on the actual start and end. That's on slowdown. That's already on slowdown, so that's fine. So actually, if you want to change the interpolation of any other ones, then just do it on the position. You could do like a natural on the stars, maybe just on the position. So play around with this, see what works for you. So you think looks nice. Animation really is, it's not like obviously there's experience to it, but there's not a science to it. It's kind of like what looks good. Use your eyes, use your gut, look at other animations. I think that's good enough for now. Okay, so there you go. That's how you create a Lottie animation inside of Lottie files. One more thing, we want to export this. So just to do due diligence. So export here. So you can export this in a number of formats. So you can download the Lottie file. So you can see here, that's a 20K file. Not too bad. You probably like optimize it and stuff like that. What I normally do is I kind of create these Lottie files and I bring them into Protopie because I'm normally prototyping some sort of larger interface. But you of course can deliver these to your development team as well. So we can just download that from here, and that'll kind of give us a JSON file, which we can then hand over to our developers. So that's how you do that. You can also, there's lots of other features. You could also save it out as an MP4 if you just wanted to create a video. So actually you could use Lottie files to create videos, which is kind of interesting. A Telegram sticker and an animated GIF as well. So there's a few different formats. You can change the frames per second, and you can change the overall, like for video here, you can change the speed and stuff like that. So yeah, that's about it. So that's how you create a fireworks animation inside of Lottie files. You're essentially creating a Lottie vector animation. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it wasn't too meandering, but it's a slightly different thing for the channel. So different kind of app. And of course you can bring all these different apps together. So look out for other videos. I'm going to be doing some videos on Play, the prototyping software Play. And I'm also going to be doing some videos with Rive as well. And that'll be coming up soon. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, please give it a like. And if you want to see more videos from me, then make sure you subscribe to the channel. That'll really help me. It'll help kind of grow the channel, get it kind of out there, get the YouTube algorithm kind of recognizing the content and sharing it with other people. So thanks for your time, and I'll see you next time. Bye.